of why we fear change. Who can tell me the first one? Kate?
We have no faith in God, true faith.
So we lack faith. And there was two parts to it. The first part was we lack faith in God. And what was the other thing we lack faith in? Joy?
Also in ourselves.
In ourselves. In our capacity to change.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what was the second thing? Blocks our change, Diana?
We lack the willingness, the development of our own will to
That's
make that
a lot
effort.
of what I talked about after Cornelius, wasn't it? And I'll refer to that as well. But there was a second thing. If we go to Joanne at the back.
No desire for truth.
That's the third thing. So desire for truth. It's really interesting that this is the one that no one can think of. If we go to Dane.
We believe we can't cope with being overwhelmed emotionally.
Yes. So can I call it, for the purposes of our discussion, fear of emotional overwhelm? So that all our fears are connected to false beliefs. Our fears are false beliefs. So we believe we can't cope with it. So that means we're afraid of it. So fear of emotional overwhelm. Okay, so who's shocked that Mary, who's lived with Jesus for 5 years, just started challenging her addictions in a sincere way in the last 6 to 12 months? Yeah. And when I say challenging, I mean me for myself. Living with Jesus, my addictions got challenged. Like 98.9% of them got challenged on the first day. And then the second day. And then the third day. And then I left. Maybe not was the third day. How long do we last, honey? You were angry by the fourth day. I was angry by the fourth day. Oh, I was probably angry by the evening of the first day, I'd say. But I hid it with a lovely facade for another, 48 hours, and then it was off, So my addictions were being challenged. External to me, my addictions were being challenged. That's happened to a lot of you, hasn't it? With Jesus, and sometimes with me just starting, challenging your addictions. And then I got angry, and I fought, and I didn't want to see it. Because I had zero faith in God or myself. I was really, really terrified. I'm not talking a little bit. I'm talking massively terrified of being emotionally overwhelmed. And at that point, my desire for truth, well, it hadn't really been developed at any point before then. And so our first year of relationship was pretty rocky. And we were off and on and in and out of relationship. The challenges kept coming to my addictions. I didn't want to know about them because these three things terrified me. Then something grabbed me. And that's a big quality of our soul. There's a desire for truth. There was no change in these two things. I still had zero faith in my ability to change, the fact that there was any hope for the world with God. I wanted to believe that, but inside, no faith. And I didn't want to be emotionally overwhelmed. But the truth got me. You know what? He's telling me the truth. And I want it because it feels awesome. And I know there's a purity in that. And I want that purity. I want to strive for that. So back I came. Then we had another 2 pretty rocky years. Honestly, it was pretty hardcore. There was a lot of projection. There was a lot of challenge. It never stopped, because that's my darling. He tells the truth. And he has personal standards and ethics and morality. There's no change. And so what happened? The challenge kept coming. You know, I did a lot of this stuff. I tantrumed, I cried, this is so hard, I can't do it, I'm just withdrawing, I'm controlling, I've got to do something, I'll divert, how can I get a sense of worth? Maybe I'll do a blog, there's got to be something. Because I don't want to do this thing, I don't want to be overwhelmed. And then after another couple of years, it got so full on, my desire for truth was pulling me, that eventually I broke down and I began to feel my lack of faith. So it wasn't intellectual anymore. This was emotional. This was desolate. There is no faith. I feel like there is no hope. I'm not good enough. I'm not made well enough. I can't do this. I can't. I love the truth. I want to believe this is true. And actually, there's a soul feeling in me. It's possible. But I'm fighting it because all of my emotional damage is saying, you can't. You're just not good enough, Mary. You're not even built that way. Other people can do this. What's wrong with you? So I had to move through a lot of self-punishment, the addictive self-punishment that I had in place to avoid this desolate lack of faith feeling. And then, more time passed. More of these feelings came up that God, I know you love everyone else. I feel it. I'm so passionate enough to tell people. But it's not me. It's not me you love. Because I'm the damaged, shitty thing, you know? It's not going to be me. And I understand it, so don't worry. But there was a lot of crying about that, you know? And in that process, I started to have a chink in the emotional overwhelm. It got so much that, whoops, I'd done it once. And actually, honestly, guys, and you're going to go through this feeling. You're going to go through this feeling of like, it's too much, I can't do it, I just can't do it, I have no faith, I can't do it, I have no faith, and you'll surrender to that emotion. And once you do it, this is when change has a possibility to happen. This is where we can start to find that will muscle that I talked about, the will to love. And once you do it once, then you go, okay, I'm going to do it again. So about a year ago, or maybe 2, I'm so bad at judging this. My soulmate says 2, I say 6 months, you know. I always go through something, I go, I wasn't even trying back then, now I'm doing it. But maybe 2 years ago I went, this is it, I want to change. And I want this faith that had been just totally smothered by my feelings of desolation and hopelessness started to bloom again. I went, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm still terrified of emotional overwhelm. There's so much fear in me about that whole emotional experience. I have so many false beliefs about it, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try for it. I'm going to challenge that. And then a little while ago, I started to stop relying on the external challenge of my addictions. Stop relying on my soulmate to go, uh-oh, there you are. Uh-oh, there it is again. What are you doing here? And I started to sense it for myself. I wanted to feel the sin inside of me and to heal it. I didn't want to just keep trying to get away from it, get away with it. I wanted to find it, and now I wanted to change it for real because my faith had grown. And my feeling that emotional overwhelm, that it was the end of the world, maybe not the end of the world, it's maybe just a small catastrophe that I seem to be able to move through, and it's getting better and better. But I wanted to tell you about that, guys, because everything that we've been talking to you about this week links to the other. It's all there to help you guys on this process, but don't expect that it's going to happen instantly. You know, it's going to require your will. And it's taken me that long, seriously. But if you love truth, or if you can find some sincere desire to love or to grow yourself towards something that's positive and to change that cycle in relationships that Cornelius just talked to you about, to change what seems like this endless cycle of never being really satisfied and actually feeling quite unhappy underneath, then you can engage that will and start to grow the muscle. So this process I'm going to outline to you is about how to challenge an addiction once you have this intellectual awareness that I know so many of you have. But it's going to require engaging your personal desire to do it, to become sensitive in a way that you're currently avoiding. And when you do it, it'll start to get easier, trust me. And it's like the whole world will light up in terms of sensitivity, and then you go, oh gosh, okay, I'm going to have to keep dealing with things. And it's a good thing, because some of you mentioned you start to feel better about yourself. You start to realise, oh, it's not so much ickiness I'm doing with people anymore. I feel more frightened, I feel more challenged, but it's not so icky all the time. So I just want to encourage you as we start looking at our steps. Everything that we're talking about, if you engage it with your soul, that's the soul loves feeling, you know. It's just getting back in touch with your soul.